Imagine a terror so profound, so unrelenting that it didn't just haunt a single family, it terrorized an entire town, capturing the imagination of a nation for over 200 years. The Bell Witch curse isn't just a ghost story, it's the tale of a malevolent force that drove a family to the brink of madness and still haunts the annals of American folklore. In the early 19th century, the Bell family seemed to have it all: a prosperous farm, a strong community, and a bright future in the burgeoning town of Adams, Tennessee. But in 1817, something dark and sinister entered their lives, something that would turn their American dream into a nightmare of epic proportions. The Bell Witch haunting would become the most famous and enduring tale of supernatural horror in American history, a story that continues to chill the blood of anyone who dares to hear it. The Bell family's nightmare began innocuously enough. John Bell, the family patriarch, was walking through his cornfield one evening when he encountered a strange creature. It had the body of a large dog and the head of a rabbit, its eyes glowing ominously in the fading light. Bell fired his gun at the creature, but it vanished without a trace. Shaken but determined to brush off the encounter, he returned home, unaware that this was just the first sign of the terror to come. Soon after, strange sounds began to plague the Bell household. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, emitting loud, insistent knocks that reverberated through the house at all hours of the day and night. Scratching sounds, as if a giant rat were clawing beneath the floorboards, filled the rooms, growing more frantic with each passing day. The Bell children, especially the youngest daughter Betsy, began waking up with unexplained bruises and scratches on their bodies, as if an invisible hand had assaulted them in their sleep. Betsy, who was around 12 years old at the time, became the primary focus of the entity's wrath. She was subjected to violent attacks, her hair pulled, her face slapped by unseen forces, and her body pinched and beaten until she cried out in agony. The family was at a loss, helpless against an adversary they couldn't see or comprehend. The haunting was relentless, and its effects began to spread beyond the Bell household, impacting the entire community of Adams. Neighbors and friends who came to offer support to the Bells soon found themselves the target of the same malevolent force. They heard the same knocks, felt the same icy fingers brush against their skin, and some even claimed to have seen apparitions of shadowy figures lurking in the Bell home. Fear spread like wildfire, and the once tight-knit community began to unravel as people avoided the Bell farm, terrified of bringing the curse into their own homes. As the torment continued, rumors began to circulate about the origins of the curse. Some whispered that it was the vengeful spirit of Kate Batts, a cantankerous neighbor with whom John Bell had a long-standing feud. Kate was known for her sharp tongue and fierce temper, and it was said that on her deathbed, she cursed the Bell family, vowing to haunt them from beyond the grave. Others believed that the curse was tied to the land itself, an ancient evil that had been awakened by the Bell family's presence. The entity, now openly referred to as the Bell Witch, became bolder over time. It began speaking, its voice a disembodied whisper that floated through the house, taunting the family and predicting their doom. It sang hymns, recited Bible verses, and even engaged in conversation with visitors, all while remaining completely invisible. The Bell Witch seemed to possess an uncanny knowledge of events happening miles away and could mimic the voices of the Bell family members, sowing confusion and fear within the household. One of the most chilling aspects of the haunting was the entity's apparent intelligence and malevolent sense of humor. It took pleasure in tormenting John Bell, whom it referred to as Old Jack. The entity seemed to have a particular hatred for him, and as the months dragged on, its attacks on him grew more personal and vicious. John Bell's health began to deteriorate rapidly. He suffered from unexplained seizures and bouts of exhaustion that left him bedridden for days at a time. The once strong and robust farmer was reduced to a shell of his former self, his body and spirit broken by the relentless assault. Despite the suffering it caused, the Bell Witch also showed a strange fondness for certain members of the Bell family. It was particularly protective of Lucy Bell, John's wife, whom it referred to as the most perfect woman to walk the earth. The entity would often speak kindly to Lucy, even singing to her and leaving small gifts of fruit on her pillow. This bizarre mix of cruelty and affection only added to the Bell Witch's terrifying unpredictability. The haunting reached its horrifying climax in December 1820, when John Bell's health took a dramatic turn for the worse. One morning, the family found him unconscious in his bed, his face pale and his breathing shallow. Beside him was a small vial containing an unknown liquid, a substance no one in the family had ever seen before. The Bell Witch's voice rang out triumphantly, declaring that she had finally succeeded in killing old Jack. In a desperate attempt to save John's life, one of the Bell's sons administered a drop of the liquid to the family cat. The cat convulsed violently and died within minutes, confirming their worst fears. The liquid was poison. John Bell died later that day, and the Bell Witch claimed responsibility for his death, her laughter echoing through the halls of the Bell home as the family wept over his lifeless body. The death of John Bell sent shockwaves through the community. The idea that a supernatural entity could physically harm, let alone kill, a person was almost too terrifying to comprehend. The Bell Witch had crossed a line from tormentor to murderer, and the fear that gripped Adams, Tennessee, reached new heights. Yet even in death, John Bell found no peace. During his funeral, the Bell Witch disrupted the service, laughing and singing loudly as mourners tried to pay their respects. It wasn't until John Bell was buried that the entity finally quieted, leaving the Bell family to mourn in an eerie, oppressive silence. Over the years, the legend of the Bell Witch grew, and with it the speculation and theories about what or who was behind the haunting. While many believed in the supernatural explanation, others sought to find a more rational explanation for the events that had plagued the Bell family. One theory suggested that the haunting was a case of mass hysteria, fueled by the close-knit and superstitious nature of the rural community. In this version of events, the strange sounds and physical attacks were the result of the Bell family's collective imagination, perhaps exacerbated by stress or mental illness. Skeptics pointed to the fact that most of the activity seemed to center around Betsy, suggesting that she might have been the unwitting catalyst for the entire ordeal. Another theory posited that the Bell Witch was not a spirit at all, but rather a hoax perpetrated by a member of the Bell family or someone close to them. This theory gained traction in the early 20th century when an account surfaced suggesting that Richard Powell, Betsy's eventual husband, had orchestrated the haunting to break up her engagement to Joshua Gardner. According to this version of events, Powell, who was deeply in love with Betsy, used his knowledge of ventriloquism and other tricks to create the illusion of a haunting, driving Betsy away from Gardner and into his own arms. However, this theory has been met with skepticism, as it fails to account for the sheer scale of the events and the numerous witnesses who experienced the phenomenon firsthand. Despite these alternative explanations, the legend of the Bell Witch has endured, in large part due to the sheer number of eyewitness accounts and the consistency of the stories told by those who lived through the ordeal. The haunting was not confined to the Bell family alone. Neighbors, friends, and even prominent figures like Andrew Jackson reported strange encounters with the entity. Jackson, who would later become the 7th President of the United States, is said to have visited the Bell farm with a group of men, only to flee in terror after experiencing the Bell Witch's wrath. According to some accounts, Jackson declared, "I'd rather fight the British in New Orleans than to have to deal with the Bell Witch." The Bell Witch's legacy also found its way into popular culture, inspiring countless books, movies, and television shows. One of the most famous films influenced by the legend is a 1999 horror film that popularized the found footage genre and became a cultural phenomenon. While the film is not a direct retelling of the Bell Witch story, its themes of supernatural terror and the power of folklore to shape reality are deeply rooted in the legend of the Bell Witch. The story of the Bell Witch culminated in a series of events that left an indelible mark on the Bell family and the town of Adams. What do you think truly haunted the Bell family? Could it have been the vengeful spirit of Kate Batts, a case of mass hysteria, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Here's a little-known fact to leave you with. Some descendants of the Bell family still live in Tennessee, and they claim that the spirit of the Bell Witch occasionally makes its presence known even today, proving that the past may not be as distant as we think.